Welcome back to the review drama, When the Phone Rings episode 5. Seo-eun still remembers the incident when Hee-Joo actually could talk. It turns out, he saw when her mother scolded Hee-Joo before and he waited for her mother to ask why Hee-Joo couldn't talk. Her mother still explained that Hee-Joo was in shock during an accident. But according to Seo-eun, selective mutism occurs when someone doesn't talk due to psychological factors. Isn't it strange if she's like that for more than 20 years? Her mother gave reason that maybe because her guilt was so big, she lost her younger sibling and her older sibling became deaf. And her mother became curious why Seo-eun suddenly asked about that. Seo-eun reminded her mother that Hee-Joo was his wife, so don't treat her carelessly.
우리 희주 챙기는 거야?
When Seo-eun was surrounded by women, he saw Hee-Joo and followed her. But suddenly his father-in-law called him and asked when he would join his father's presidential campaign. But Seo-eun has not given an answer to his father-in-law, and at that time Hee-Joo called him with 406 number. And when answering the phone from Hee-Joo, he saw the maid carrying Hee-Joo's jacket, which she found in the toilet. Seo-eun took the jacket and saw Hee-Joo holding a cell phone on her ears. Hee-Joo was shocked to see Seo-eun and immediately hid the cell phone. She became nervous and almost fell, but Seo-eun immediately caught her.
괜찮아?
Seo-eun was angry. Why Hee-Joo climbed the fence? Did she intend to commit suicide? Hee-Joo didn't answer him, but suddenly she made a hiccup sound and she immediately covered her mouth. Then Seo-eun was curious why Hee-Joo was holding the cell phone to her ear. She asked Hee-Joo to make a sound like before, hiccup or whatever. But Hee-Joo just kept quiet and didn't make a sound. Then Seo-eun put on the jacket he brought. After Hee-Joo left, Seo-eun got a call from Mr. Park saying that 406 phone was successfully traced. And that person was in Sogongdong, the hotel where Seo-eun was currently at. At first glance, Seo-eun thought that 406 was Hee-Joo, and then he chased after Hee-Joo. It turned out that Hee-Joo returned to the party and Seo-eun saw her sitting there. Then Seo-eun asked Mr. Park to ask for a list of the guests who were present, and he also asked him to unravel the sound as soon as possible. When he got home, Seo-eun suddenly saw a scar from when Hee-Joo was little. At that time, she was almost bitten by a dog, but she didn't scream at all. How can a child hold back her screams? Seo-eun wants to know how long Hee-Joo can hold it in. Hee-Joo as a teenager really wants to be a news anchor, and when she's practicing, her mother suddenly comes and scolds her. Because she has to keep pretending that she can't be a news anchor, so she won't be able to be a news anchor. As soon as Hee-Joo talks in front of Aina, Hee-Joo and her mother will be thrown out of the house. Hee-Joo cries and runs out of the house, but in front of her is a fierce dog, and when the dog almost bites her, Seo-eun comes and the dog goes away. He says that Hee-Joo has to fight the dog or her mother, older sibling, or whoever it is. Even if that person is a parent or family, there is always a chance for revenge. Then Seo-eun asks her to get on his back because her knee is scratched. Hee-Joo just obeys when Seo-eun forces her, and they both see the sky, which is as red as Hee-Joo's cheeks at that time. Hee-Joo and Seo-eun both can't sleep in their respective rooms. Suddenly Seo-eun wakes up and knocks on Hee-Joo's room. He feels that Hee-Joo has been tricked. Why Hee-Joo has been deceiving him for 20 years. At least while living with him, Hee-Joo doesn't need to hide that she can talk. But Hee-Joo still doesn't talk and types on her phone that everyone has secrets. She asks back, isn't Seo-eun hiding something from her? And it turns out that it was just Seo-eun's imagination. Mr. Kong gives information about the results of the sign language interpreter recruitment, and when he says it, Seo-eun just stays silent and closes his eyes. That makes Mr. Kong feel like he didn't make his boss happy with his abilities. He then apologizes for making him uncomfortable, but actually Seo-eun is satisfied with the results and asks for a break. In the toilet, Mr. Kong calls his wife. He confides because his boss feels like he doesn't care about him. And it turns out that Seo-eun is in the toilet and hears his conversation with his wife. Then he tells Mr. Kong to talk to him, and of course Mr. Kong is a bit worried and scared. Suddenly Seo-eun asks if Mr. Kong always tells everything to his wife. Are there no secrets between husband and wife? And Mr. Kong replied that it seems like there isn't, but sometimes a husband has to pretend not to know if it's a small problem so that there is room to breathe. Because it's suffocating if a husband is fussy and criticizes many things, even though it's difficult because Seo-eun is a perfect person. But according to Mr. Kong, marriage requires effort. Hee-Joo and her friends are waiting for the results of the recruitment of translators from the presidential office. And the results is that Hee-Joo passed. Her friends is surprised and happy, but Hee-Joo was silent and her eyes were teary. Then her friend told Hee-Joo to contact her family about this good news. Hee-Joo herself was confused about who she should contact and she sent a message to Seo-eun. But she had difficulty putting her words and suddenly she accidentally sent a love emoticon to Seo-eun. And Seo-eun was surprised to see the emoticon, making her unable to concentrate on attending the meeting. Suddenly she agreed to go on an outing with his office colleagues and also stay overnight together. Seo-eun herself was confused about how to answer the emoticon sent by her wife. And Hee-Joo felt that her fingers were very stupid. It would be strange if she deleted it, and she couldn't read Seo-eun's reply. And it turned out that Seo-eun congratulated her for passing. Seo-eun sent a boutique address and wanted Hee-Joo to go there. Then Hee-Joo came to the boutique and there was a staff showing various kinds of office suits. The presidential spokesman's office called her and told her to prepare suitable clothes for Hee-Joo. And at the same time, Aina also came to the boutique and looked at their collection. She tried on one of the dresses there and Hee-Joo also tried on a suit. Suddenly Seo-eun was behind her and said that the suit suited her. Then Seo-eun told Hee-Joo to try on the same dress that Aina tried on and Aina seemed to hear Seo-eun's voice. While on the way Hee-Joo told Seo-eun that the blue dress didn't suit her. Then Seo-eun told Hee-Joo to try on another dress. And when she saw Hee-Joo trying on the dress, Seo-eun was speechless because Hee-Joo was so beautiful. Seo-eun said that underestimating herself is a bad habit and Seo-eun wants to stop her bad habit. And at that time Aina turned out to see them from outside the store. Sang-woo sent a message to Hee-Joo and congratulated her for passing the sign language interpreter test and he invited her to have dinner with Yuri too. Seo-eun read her chat and he wanted to join in the dinner. They gathered together to congratulate Hee-Joo. Sang-woo asked why Hee-Joo and Seo-eun can be together and Seo-eun gave reason that tonight Hee-Joo actually wants to treat him to dinner. Sang-woo feels strange why Hee-Joo suddenly wants to treat Seo-eun to dinner. He thinks there must be something there. Sang-woo also asks why now Hee-Joo is a sign language interpreter team at the presidential office. Doesn't Hee-Joo actually have a dream and Hee-Joo's dream is to become a news anchor? Seo-eun is confused why Sang-woo is discussing Hee-Joo's dream, because now Hee-Joo is working as a sign language interpreter. He is afraid that it will affect Hee-Joo and make her confused. Hee-Joo with her hand gestures immediately tells Seo-eun and Sang-woo to stop arguing. Hee-Joo explains that it is true that becoming a news anchor is her dream. However, she also enjoys working as a sign language interpreter and this should not be a problem. After that, Hee-Joo goes outside to get some fresh air. At that time she suddenly gets a message from Aina and she asking how she is. Because he is worried, Seo-eun then follows Hee-Joo out. At that time, Seo-eun sees two small children, siblings, passing in front of him. He immediately remembers when Seo-eun was little, he often came to Aina's house and Hee-Joo to study together. Aina, who is deaf, can't hear what Seo-eun says, so Hee-Joo always translates it for Ina. Even though as a rich person Ina could have bought a hearing aid or learned sign language like Hee-Joo. And at that time, Seo-un said rudely to Ina, but Hee-Joo translated the opposite to Ina and Seo-un was suspicious of it. Seo-un's daydream stopped when he got a call from 406 aka his own wife. Because Seo-un was called by 406, Seo-un then asked if 406 had ever heard Hee-Joo's voice. Does 406 know why Hee-Joo can't talk? Seo-un then remembered her mother-in-law's words, if maybe Hee-Joo's guilt was too big that she didn't want to talk. Is his wife unable to talk because of Ina? Because the accident caused Hong Ina, the biological daughter of Hong's chairman, to become deaf, Hee-Joo was forced to keep her mouth shut and not allowed to talk. 406 aka Hee-Joo didn't want to explain this. She only asked if Seo-un really didn't want to let go of Hee-Joo if Ina had returned to Korea. Seo-un replied that she would not change, and why did Hee-Joo? Was it because she sympathized with Hee-Joo? Seo-un then wanted to tell 406 how he really felt about Hee-Joo. But suddenly when she was crossing the road, a car drove towards him. And at that time Hee-Joo, who was across the road, immediately shouted Seo-un's name and then saved him. Luckily they were both fine, it was just that her hand is a little hurt. Seo-un warns Hee-Joo to be careful, because now Hee-Joo works using her hands. Actually, where did Hee-Joo come from? She is so strong that she can knock Seo-un down. And Seo-un remembers that Hee-Joo called his name earlier. He wants Hee-Joo to call him again. Seo-un wants to hear his wife's voice again. The world will not collapse if Hee-Joo speaks. So say all the things that she has kept to herself. In the new office, Hee-Joo and the other staff introduce themselves, and when Hee-Joo introduces herself she uses sign language that is not easy to understand. They have difficulty communicating. If Hee-Joo uses sign language, then Seo-un says that he will learn sign language to find out the accuracy of the news delivered. And that makes them feel that if the spokesperson can also use sign language, it will increase their popularity in the presidential office. Finally, Seo-un learns sign language with Hee-Joo. Then Hee-Joo tells Seo-un to learn one word or sentence every day. Seo-un starts writing down what that he wanted to learn, and Hee-Joo told him how. The presidential office held a dinner for the staff. Suddenly Seo-un skillfully grilled meat for them and amazed them. They really liked the meat that Seo-un grilled, because it was perfectly cooked. That night was fun, until Seo-un was called out by Mr. Park. And Hee-Joo apparently got a call from the kidnapper. It turned out to be the man who tried to hit Seo-un at that time. The man felt that Hee-Joo changed her mind and didn't divorce her husband, because she had saved him. He wanted Hee-Joo to divorce him, because he wanted to see Seo-un destroyed. He felt that Hee-Joo didn't know Seo-un at all. In this world, he was the only one who knew Seo-un well, and he reminded Hee-Joo to end her relationship immediately, because she didn't have much time.
언니야 정체.
Mr. Park reported that if he had obtained the original and correct voice analysis, the voice came from a woman. Seo-un couldn't believe that the person who had been threatening him was a woman. He also remembered that the kidnapper who had contacted him knew about Hee-Joo and was always surrounding there. Not to mention, he also once caught Hee-Joo on the phone. Is it true that Hee-Joo was 406 all this time? To be more certain, Seo-un will also send an audio of a woman's voice and ask Mr. Park to match it. Because he keeps thinking about it, Seo-un drinks a lot and ends up drunk and is forced to be driven by a replacement driver. When she gets home, Hee-Joo finds her husband still in the car and asleep. Hee-Joo tries to wake him up, but Seo-un doesn't wake up. Then Hee-Joo carries Seo-un into the house. And because Seo-un's body is heavy, they both fall, and when they fall Hee-Joo's lips land right on Seo-un's lips.